Hey everybody, I'm just gonna say a quick hello to everybody. Peach Cobblers, it's always a pleasure to have you. Steezel Punk, welcome, welcome. Brain Fart, it's always a pleasure. And we've got Inner Child 123. So guys, if I forget some of your usernames, please forgive me. But today we've got a very, very special guest with us. I feel like I should add drums. Wait one second. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a very
You don't need
famous,
drums. I got a guitar back there.
yeah, and very talented stay-at-home dev who I just found out, by the way. I don't know if I'm allowed to share this. Your name is Julian. I saw in the
Yeah.
yeah. So hello, welcome, Julian. I don't know if you prefer stay-at-home dev or Julian.
I think I kind of prefer that.
Stay-at-home dev, the full thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's
I
cool.
like it. I like, of course, for sure. So how are you doing today?
Good. It's a busy day. It's a busy day, man.
It's a busy day. It's a busy day. Dude, first of all, I want to say thank you for answering because I don't know if all the other people, I mean, all the other game devs are very familiar with this. Contacting influencers, celebrities, people like this on YouTube is
First off, I
yes.
am none of those.
In our eyes, you are, my friend. In our eyes, you really are.
No.
So we're just really happy that we have somebody with your expertise and with just your knowledge who's willing to share with us a little bit of your time and help us learn a little bit about the whole game dev industry. By the way, just I might sometimes interject and say hello to Jam Park, all the people that
Yeah,
hop
I've got
in.
it. I've got it up now, so I can see
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And Cindergate, hello. So also, just so you know, because I am extremely poorly organized and I'm all over the place, as you got to witness by my emailing skills, I'm also doing a game giveaway at the end of the live stream to whoever can beat me at my game Kumome, which was made with Godot, by the way, made with a very
Yeah.
lovely engine, Godot. So that will come later this evening, and I look forward to seeing whoever can try their hand against me. You will lose, guys. I'm just giving you a heads up. You're not beating me. I'm stingy. I do not want to lose that money and buy Balatro 10 times. Anyway, so tell us a little bit about you, Mr. Stay-at-home dev. How did you get started? How did all of this start?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in game development, and I'm a little bit older, and so to date myself, I grew up. I had a NES. Like my brother had the original Nintendo, and we had a Sega Genesis. And I remember going to Blockbuster, and that was a big deal. Like you go and get to pick out a game, and I remember at one point I had an N64, and
Best
we
console of all
picked out a
time.
random game. Yeah, like great console, and we picked out a random game because I was not game literate at that point, and we picked Ocarina of Time, and it
Oof.
just was like, it was like my world opened. And so my brother and I had this sort of competition getting through that game. We kind of play it, one
Wait,
person
is
would
it?
play it in the
Wait, sorry.
morning, the
Is
other
it
person
older
would play it at
brother
night.
or younger brother?
Older brother. Oh yeah, older
So
brother.
did he
So
have
I
to do
should
the
win.
bosses? Yeah.
Should win. Well, I was always a little bit behind, and I don't actually know the playtime. Yeah, that's lost knowledge. But I do remember like the water temple was like he
Oof.
did the water temple, and he was like, wait till you get to the water temple. It's a thing, right? And but I was so inspired by that, and I remember like back in the day, and this was internet was around. I'm not that old, but like there were these things called rumors and websites, and you could look up these rumors for these games, especially like 3D open world esque type games, and you didn't know if they were true or not because it just
You mean like actual rumors? It wasn't like a website called
yeah, oh yeah, like
rumors.com.
you could be
Ah,
like you
yeah,
could play
yeah.
Luigi and Mario
Yeah.
64, or
Yeah.
like there's these hidden stars that you can find,
Man.
or and it would be really like bizarre.
And you'd waste so
uh
much time trying to test it out to see if it was true. And like I
yes.
remember this with Jet Set Radio Future. They told us you could play as DJ Professor K, who was the narrator of the game, if you ran around in loops nonstop. And my
Yeah.
dumbass would kept looping around the map, I think, for 45 minutes until I realized. Yeah,
Well, that was the Luigi thing. You had to
yeah.
go to Dire Docks
Uh-huh.
at the very end of it. You had to do a whole
Yeah.
bunch of other stuff. But at the very end of it, you had to like run around the crate that moves back and forth on the ship,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you couldn't touch the crate. That was the thing. And so you would like do it, and you'd like clip the crate, and you're like, oh, I didn't touch it. I didn't really touch it, and you keep going.
But was it
But
true? Did
I
it
think,
actually work?
oh no, it didn't.
No,
It
it was
didn't
just
work. Some
yeah.
of them were true, and obviously with Ocarina of Time, the big rumor was you can find the Triforce. Like it was
Yeah.
in the game. There were even screenshots at the time.
Yeah.
Like it was like early development that they had the Triforce in there, and like that was like a real thing. But what it made you do is you really had to explore and look through the game in all different ways. And
That's
by
so
doing
cool.
that, you become interested in how these games are made and how they're created.
Hmm.
And you start to see like the bushes are just images, and they make them in an X pattern. And as a a teenager, this was like really interesting. So I kind of got into how do people make games. And at the time there wasn't Unity. There wasn't really there was Unreal in the sense of the engine, but to
Hmm.
have like a public downloadable engine that you could make stuff
That's
out of,
true.
there was not a lot of choices.
That's very
So I
true.
got kind of interested in that, dipped my toes in it. But I really didn't come back to it until I got a lot older. I had a little bit more time, and I did web development
Okay.
for over a decade. And so that kind of familiarized myself with coding and got the foundation for that. And that wasn't the scary thing it was when you're a teenager. And yeah, I got into it, and um, just growing older with the YouTube generation. And like I remember when it was like just basketball shots, like trick
Yeah.
shots and cats, like that was YouTube. And E-Bombs World and all that
And
other
wall
stuff.
running videos, tutorials, how to run. I remember because I used to watch them, and I really believed that I could become a ninja. It
Yeah,
never worked.
well, I mean that wasn't even like, and then Ninja Warrior comes up,
Yeah.
but it just with all that. And then the thing that I'm really into is just the power that
Hmm.
platform gives you, right?
Yeah.
So I jumped into that. I really got interested in the Godot engine, and I really vibe with
The
what
community.
they're all about, the open source nature of it, and just the community aspect. And
Mm-mm.
the growth of that has been huge over the last 2 years or so. So
Were you able to make
it's
any web games, by the way? Because Cindergate said web dev and browser-based games were super fun to make back in the day. Did
I
you?
I I grew up with Newgrounds.
Oh, that was a
I'm sure
bad
some people
website, my
know
friend.
Newgrounds.
That was a dangerous website.
And yeah, it's a dangerous website. You get lost in that for hours. And I did a couple like Flash.
Yeah,
Flash is gone. It's been killed off by Apple. But
sad.
you can make a game in Flash. People made some really like complicated,
Yeah.
awesome stuff in
Do
Flash.
you remember Miniclip
And
and Addicting Games?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Those were
And you could just
classics.
upload them to the internet and people would play them. How cool is that? You publish yourself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. It does feel like the
Yeah,
internet got very streamlined in terms of game development, because we either get these like massive AAA studios. We do have itch.io, which has kind of taken these websites' place, but not entirely. So I am
yeah.
kind of curious to see where things are going to progress. But sorry, I interrupted you. You were telling us more about yourself.
Well, I got into it. I got really into I'm somebody who really likes to learn. So when you
Hmm.
get into, I mean, obviously game development, there's an endless things that you can try to figure out and try to learn. So that's really appealing to me. And then the addition of doing a YouTube channel and all the video stuff, and there's even more stuff to learn. So that's kind of addicting
For
in
sure.
my case. But yeah, I just get started and you keep going.
But so, I guess I'm gonna start off with a little bit with the heavier questions. But you've
Yeah,
put yourself in a position where you're a little bit of, I mean, let's face it, you are a bit of an influencer in the realm of Godot and or Godot. I'm always confused as to the pronunciation, but but
whatever feels right.
exactly, Godot.
Yeah,
But you've managed to see thousands, I'm assuming at this point, if not tens of thousands of game submissions. And
yeah.
I'm very curious as to if you've noticed trends. It's a bit of a risky question, but where you can tell like this game is gonna make it. This is, it's a star that's going to be able to push through. Whereas you see these, I mean, you do get plenty of submissions. In your eyes, what do you
Mm.
think makes or breaks games, especially at the indie level, where essentially we don't have these big teams, we don't have these big budgets, but sometimes you can see a certain nugget, a certain little piece of like, aha, this has it, versus okay, this was cool, but not exactly there.
Yeah, I think if you think of a game as sort of a, I don't want to say cake, but think of it like a pyramid, right? And you have sort of a foundation level of what a game is.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can play it. There's some game mechanic to it. There's a way that you can win. There's a way that you can lose, and there are different variations of that theme. And then you get your genres and different types of games. But that's the core. Like that's what a game is. It's an interactive
Experience.
a thing that yeah, it's an interactive experience that you can win or you can lose, and in some cases it's more casual. That's true, but a
I
lot of
mean, it
games
still
have that
boils down to
foundation.
that where losing might just be very, very, very difficult to lose, and but there is a sort of a goal to achieve. Is what you're saying,
Yeah,
right?
maybe
Yeah.
in a casual game, like you when you get bored, you've lost the game, I guess. I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
there's that foundation of what that game is, and a lot of games have that foundation, right? They have
Mm-hmm.
a game that you can play. I think when you start getting higher up that pyramid, things that are a little bit smaller to the eye, but things that still take a decent amount of time, it's at like, that last 10%. It's polish. It's thinking about, how is everything integrated? How are sound effects integrated with the visuals? How's the color integrated with the mood or the theme? And these aren't things that you, even as a player, are going to like, oh, I see that. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like I can shoot or I can jump. Like that's a basic foundational gameplay mechanic. But when you have like a sound effect that like changes pitch, that
Yeah.
associates also with like this thing is going up or this thing is going down, like that's a really fine detail that someone has put into that
Mm-hmm.
they're thinking about, but
The
it
details that we don't
maximizes
notice
that
as a
experience.
player.
Yeah, I think a lot of people call it juice. Like
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
juice gets thrown around so much, and it's also been associated with a visual thing. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of the time, and feel. There's a feel to it too, but it's that if you're going to talk about scientifically, it's that input, it's that additional stimuli
Mm-hmm.
that are reinforcing the experience that you're having with the game,
Exactly.
right? And
I.
you feel that. You
It's
feel
true.
it when it's wrong.
I experienced this firsthand when I showcased my game originally, just the core mechanics. The core game loop was present, but without graphics, without SFX, a lot of people were telling me, like, okay, I guess this is understandable. But once the moment we put minor, just visual effects, people are like, oh, wow, this game's really, really good. And I'm like, but this is a board game. The visuals barely have any say in, like, can you not see the vision? But it's true. The attention to
Well, it's a
detail.
visual it's a visual medium, right?
Yeah.
It's all through, for the most part, 99%, it's through a
Mm.
screen. It's
Yeah.
very visual. And you
Yeah.
can turn sound off, and other things. Now, you notice how big a difference that makes when you do that. But, yeah, I think people are very, and you see that, like, people are like, "Oh, this game looks amazing. These are really great graphics. These are awesome." But we also notice, like, you can have great graphics, but it doesn't really something's missing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Exactly. Well, I mean, you see
And
a
I
lot
think
of AAA studios experience that where they're all there, but sometimes it's just missing the cohesive image of like a little soul sometimes, or just that little
yes.
passion that really pushed it over the edge.
It's sort of like the dichotomy between, like a Sony, Microsoft versus a Nintendo, and I know this gets brought up in a lot of ways with
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo, but they are really, really, really good at focusing on the little things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still feeling like a cohesive
Whole.
experience,
Yep.
right? Like even like the Switch menu,
Yeah, yeah. It
like it
feels.
feels good.
Oh, you listen to the sound. They literally have 10-hour play clips of videos on YouTube of just the Nintendo Switch, the Wii U menu, the Wii menu, where you could, because it is so smooth and so calculated. You can tell they thought through the whole process. By the way, I just wanted to bring up some of the questions that some
Yeah, yeah.
people Asked Clay's Games asked, "Do you only look at Godot games? I know that you've transitioned primarily into Godot, but he is curious if you now focus only on Godot." And also,
Y-
Brainfart, regarding to your previous answers, said, "Are you talking about immersion or polish?" And then he says, after, "Immersion is not really required to enjoy a game, but I think in this case, what you're saying by immersion is not being taken out due to lack of polish, lack of just attentive details, being really immersed in the cohesive experience."
Yeah, I think I do mainly focus on, well, even entirely. I entirely focus on Godot engine stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I Cobra Code, if some people know Cobra Code, they've started an Unreal Engine version of sort of what I'm doing with the weekly videos,
Mm-hmm.
and people cover Unity and those types of videos. But I really am very focused on supporting the Godot community, and I think there's sort of that early on feel to it. I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
Yep. I
Like
know exactly
people
what you
are
mean.
like just starting
It's yeah.
and they kind of look to what they want to use. And not everyone is going to the auto engine, obviously, but it's I don't know. It's just it's like the little engine that could, right?
Yeah. It feels like the
Um,
beginning of an arrow.
which is a pun, and I didn't mean that to be a pun, but it is a pun. And in terms of the immersion, I think immersion gets thrown around when it comes to things like user interface.
Yep.
Like I'm thinking like Breath of the Wild, like you can turn off the HUD, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's supposed to make it more immersive. Like you don't have all that information. It feels more like you're in the game. I think for me, it is immersion, and it's tapping into more than just the visual sense, right? It's tapping into like what happens when you add haptic vibration
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to shooting in an FPS.
Yep. Alan Wake, it scared me. The haptics actually made me feel uncomfortable, and it's true. These little things, these little details, really. It reminds me a little bit of The Matrix, where you are so focused, you're not watching the screen, you are in the screen. You are experiencing
Yes.
the art that the artist is trying to showcase, and actually, yeah, it's just it's really there. Whereas poor immersion in this case, like poor menus, stuff like this, really take you away from experiencing the art. And you can say the same thing with movies. Whenever, for example, you watch The Dark Knight Rises and the sound isn't perfectly balanced, you're like, what did Bane say? Like, and it's like it really pulls you out of that experience as a
Well,
whole.
exactly. Try watching a movie with just like one headphone in.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, it's a
Like
killer.
it's weird. Like
Yeah.
because your brain's like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I don't feel like I'm there. I'm not. You're tricking your brain, and a game is you're tricking your brain, especially when you get into like virtual reality, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's like the ultimate a trick of the brain when you play Half-Life Alex, and
Yeah.
they've got all of these. Why is that game such a highly revered VR title? Because they thought of all the little things that make it feel that way. So in terms of what that means for just like a 2D game, or if you're making a 3D game,
Mm-hmm.
it's what can I add to an event? What can I add to someone shooting a gun or someone picking something up or opening a door? What can I add to that to make it more real?
Okay.
And whether that's a sound effect, and that sound effect shouldn't be the same sound effect every time,
Of course. That's
because the
exactly
brain's
what the
only,
immersion. That's exactly what makes the immersion. Is that
yeah,
sometimes
there's a
it'll
thing
be a
in
slightly different
in
thing.
in audio production that's the machine gun effect.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the same sound effect and it just repeats over and over and over again, like your
Mm-hmm.
brain's like, that makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
That's not normal. It's not natural. So if
Mm-hmm.
you have something change and adjust, you're selling it more, and it's a little tiny thing. Um, but it's just a bunch of little tiny things, and the more complicated your game gets, the more little tiny things you have to think about. You
Exactly.
know.
So, just to bring this back to the original question, and for all the viewers who are tuning in right now, I asked him, in his eyes, what does he think really makes or breaks games? Because you review a lot of games with your This Week in Godot, Godot releases and stuff like this, correct? And
Yes.
from my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, just I like to reiterate what the speaker says so I can make sure I understand for my own game and my own experiences. Polish is essentially what makes or breaks and makes games elevate the experience and stand out. It's the little details. It's the, for example, random animation that'll be a little bit different every so often. Just the fact that it's immersion. Essentially, it's making sure that the world that you're creating feels alive and doesn't feel like just a automated mechanism.
Yeah, and I will say, like, if you don't have the foundation,
Mm-hmm.
right? If your game is really, really boring or doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
an interesting loop or is just not fun, like the top of the pyramid doesn't matter because you don't have the bottom of the pyramid. So you've got to test, play test, make sure people like you're getting other people's experience that aren't you, because obviously you're making the game and your team's making a game. But get someone who doesn't even play games, right?
Yeah.
Or get someone who is really, really into that genre that you're making and get those different perspectives to give you the full picture of how people are taking that in.
Okay. As a somebody, and this is very pertinent for all the people who are working on their games now, as somebody who gets to experience many, many different submissions and stuff like this, are there any cliches or trends that you've noticed that have been popping up and that you're just like, holy shit, guys, please stop it with the deck builder roguelikes?
Uh-huh.
Or
No,
is there
it
something where
was
just like, whew?
Vampire Survivors was it
Yeah.
was different versions of Vampire
Reskins.
Survivors,
Yeah.
which, at the same time, like I say that, but then you get a game like Brotato,
Yeah.
which is made in the Godot engine.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember the number, but it's, millions in
Mm-hmm.
terms of revenue that they've made from that. And it's just Vampire Survivors with potatoes,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but yeah, it's Balatro is sort of everyone wants to make
Yeah.
some version of a card game that fits that that mold,
Yeah.
and it'll. But that it's the same with anything, with any
Anything
art form,
successful.
with
Yeah.
any, yeah, like that trend always happens. Like somebody makes something, but or somebody could even start that trend and they didn't quite get over the hill, but then someone perfects that, right? But there's that peak of what that is, and
Mm-hmm.
then everyone's gonna try to pick up
Emulate it and
that,
try it, milk the cow until
yeah, which
blood
is
comes
fine,
out.
which is okay. I
Yeah.
think people end up doing that if they're doing it just to learn or because they really have a really good version of it, a really good idea. Like that's great. If they're sort of chasing the success of that initial game or chasing, I'm gonna make money off of this if I turn it around real quick. Like
People can tell.
people know people. I
Mm.
mean, think what group of people is a larger consumer of whatever they're doing than gamers. I mean, they play
Yeah.
tons of games. Like you can't really fake a
But
gamer.
I have to disagree because gamers are also super, and I'm speaking from experience.
Mhm.
Especially today, we tend to fall back on the same games over and over again. Like I think the most played games currently are Fortnite, which has been out for close to a decade, GTA 5 Online, and we have a reluctancy to delve into like new games because I think the market is a little bit saturated. And it's true, there is a lot of choice, but
I would say something else is at play there, though.
mm-hmm.
I think those games are, and I will put an asterisk around game. I
Yeah,
think I think those games, those experiences, are highly dependent upon other mechanisms
yeah.
than the game itself to keep people engaged.
You're being very polite with what you're saying, and I respect that.
Is gambling.
There we
Yeah,
go. There we go. So,
I don't.
guys,
Yeah, I don't
the
have to
moral of
be.
the story is implement some gambling into your games, and you're guaranteed to make a little bit of revenue. Stay at home dev said it first. Um,
But it's the that sort of the dopamine hit that happens when you have some essence of gambling on
yeah.
there, loot boxes or what have you, and that's an addictive. I mean, how much of mobile gaming is that, right?
I think, yeah.
Um,
If you look at all the most
and
popular
it's
mobile
the
games,
social aspect is
yeah.
a big thing,
Yeah.
absolutely,
We got quite
for
a
sure.
few comments, actually. Oh, actually, Touchmint, welcome. Touchmint is actually a really, really cool member of the community. He's making a game, but it's also audio-based accessible game for the visually impaired. And it's his goal right now is to find ways to increase, because we're talking about the immersion, increase
Mhm.
immersion without the visual aspect altogether. So he has his own challenges to face, which is pretty cool in my opinion. I got to play the game and it's really fun.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
yeah, Brain Fart, always a pleasure to say your name. Our game is a roguelite, not because we like the genre, I think he means genre, which we do, but also out of necessity. We are a small team and have to make sure that the little content we have can be played several times. Do you think that that might be playing against them, or no?
Well, I mean, that's true. That's when you make a design choice like that, and you understand, like we only have, you're not going to make a 30-hour, 40-hour RPG
Mm-hmm.
with voice acting and all of that. Like that's you're limited in your scope. And so the idea of a game where maybe the base content can get repeated a lot, like in a roguelite, like
Mm-hmm.
that's a smart design choice.
Yeah.
Now, maybe there's a different way that you can sort of leverage that to tap into different mechanics or different ways to bring people in. And I think you see that. You see like mixes of FPS and roguelite or strategy game and roguelite. It's really it's almost like the roguelite aspect is more of a flavor of what that genre is,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But even yeah, it's I don't think that's a bad thing. No.
Actually, and Brain Fart even added, to a certain degree, you could say that the original Mario was also a roguelite. You had three lives, and if you messed up, you had to start over. And
If it's a game like an old fashioned game where you used to get that
yeah.
password,
Oh yeah,
right? Like you
yeah.
get the password that you have to
The
write
contra
down, and you could
password,
skip
yeah.
to that level. That's absolutely what it is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very true. But wait, let me just. Actually, Clay says something that maybe you can give a little bit of input, but I don't get why people want to emulate other people's games. I find it so much more fun and rewarding to be able to put life into your own vision and fantasies. I think the answer to that is money, my friend. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's
Well,
predominantly yeah.
and I think people create in different ways. Some people are very, creating out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very okay with going with their gut and picking something out and going with it. Some people are more inspired by other people's work and then can bounce off of that. Um, yeah, I think there are a lot of different ways that people get creative.
Very true. Are there any Godot games that you're looking forward to that you've seen and you've been keeping your eye on, other than Kumome, of course? Everybody check it out. It's on the App Store and the Play Store. We just hit 1,400 downloads. Woo woo! Uh,
There you go. Congrats.
but yeah, are there any games that you've
Yeah,
been? Yeah,
I well, I like Slate Spire 2
yeah.
is coming. And it's not a huge game by any means, but it's a very popular game. And so
I
it's
mean,
sort
that
of
is
like this
pretty
proof.
huge at this point, no?
Yeah. It's proof of can the engine support what that does, what that means. And obviously it can, but there's a lot of people who think, oh, the Godot engine can't do
Were there doubts
you
about
know,
that though? Because I feel like mechanically and computationally, Slay the Spire is not exactly very demanding as a game.
no, not by any means. I think in terms of like a really large game that is gonna give you that like triple A feel,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's hard to say. I think part the primary focus for a lot of people as they go into the engine is the 2D aspect of it, really, because I think Unreal has to fake it really hard to get that, and it can, but it's not a 2D engine,
Yeah.
and Unity is more capable. But I really feel that the Godot engine's 2D capabilities are pretty strong. So you see a lot of 2D games coming out with it. The 3D rendering is getting better, and again, they're developing this all in house, and it's contribution based, and So it's really impressive what they've gotten done with what they have.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think people are really excited about Road to Vostok, which is a more of a 3D
Yeah, yeah.
FPS.
Wait, I'm gonna
There's
Google it 1 second. So your face might disappear, guys. I apologize, but yes, please.
yeah, it's not state of the art graphically, but in terms of fidelity, it's a higher fidelity game. Um,
Oh, it looks very nice, actually. Holy shit. Yeah, sorry. I'm just looking at it.
yeah, and I think they actually came from Unity and they moved over
Oh,
to
really?
Godot. So it's yeah, there's a number of stuff, and the thing is like the difference between 2 years ago and now
It's
is
massive.
there's always stuff coming out, way more stuff coming out than there used to be, and we're not even seeing really the new iteration of the engine because
I
that's going to take a little bit more
yeah.
time.
I will say I was so not disappointed. I'm gonna try to really weigh my words here, but I was very surprised that given the accessibility and the lack of extra fees, that it hasn't become the primary engine on mobile. Because Apple already, pardon my French, but fucks you in the ass with $100 fee every year plus 30% of whatever you earn. Android, similar fees until you reach, or fit $25 one time payment, and then they take 15% until you hit a certain cap, but still. So I'm really surprised it hasn't become the go to engine for all mobile development. Um, I've luckily I've been able to release with it, not without its
Hmm.
own fair share of finagling, especially when it comes to all the in-app purchase stuff and stuff like this.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Cindergate says Unity is slightly more refined. I don't know if refined is the right word, but the industry standard for bigger companies, which is why it's more popular. Yeah, it's true, but like it's true that for example for Unity, I could have just downloaded the plugin for in-app purchases, and then instantly it would be very easy for me to.
Yeah, I think it's an issue of time and size,
Yeah,
which I don't know if Unity has reached a peak, and it's large, it's huge, right?
yeah,
But
large
I do
enough to
think the
make big
ceiling,
mistakes.
yeah, I think the ceiling for the Gato engine is decently high, and if it gets to that point, and it doesn't have to reach Unity or Unreal levels, and it doesn't. I mean, it's popular now, it's successful now. It doesn't have to reach those levels to be considered successful. It's more of can it get 85% of the way there, 90% of the way there, and there's sort of a tipping point
Mm-hmm.
where it becomes so popular and the community starts attracting even stronger coders,
Yeah.
stronger people with more knowledge about certain aspects of every single aspect that's involved with building an engine like that,
Mm-hmm.
that you're getting more of those people under the tent and building those things, and what you're going to end up with is an engine that's open source, has about 90 plus percent of the features that the larger engines have, and but the speed of production is going
Mm-hmm.
to go a lot quicker
Exactly.
after that tipping point,
Exactly.
right?
Actually, Sonic Colors, guys, Sonic Colors, I believe, was made off a remixed version of Godot.
Kind
If
of, yes.
right, they
They
took.
like they like used it. They used it as a container. Like they
Okay,
had all the code, and then they ran it through
I see.
uh, the
I
engine,
see.
as I understand it.
Okay. Well, I the point of this and what stay-at-home dev is trying to tell all of you guys who aren't using Unity is come to Unity. We need more of you guys because as we start progressing, we're only gonna get better. So come on, hop on the for the ride, and it's really fun and everybody's really nice. Honestly, one of the nicest communities I've ever seen. Originally, I was supposed to go with Unity for my game, and lo and behold, I accidentally met a dev in the Godot subreddit, and he was so helpful and so practical and kind that within 10 minutes he was like, you know what, let's stick with Godot. It's just it's worth it. Zebra Killer Zero, it's a metaphor by the way, not what he actually does for a living, works in the game industry as a marketing expert, says, "I'm not a technical person at all. What does it actually mean to be open source?" Aha,
That's a
please.
great question.
It is.
Even if you use Unreal or you use Unity, when you download that software and you use it in any capacity, you don't own that software. You don't own that code. You're able to use it because they give you license to use it.
Mm-hmm.
That still exists within an open source world, but that license is pretty different. So the engine itself exists under the MIT license, and that basically means that you can use the engine, all of its code, everything within the engine or associated with the engine, anything that has that license attached to it, which is pretty much everything there. You can use that in any capacity. The only thing that you have to do is put that little like a line or two within that. It basically means that there's no ownership. So as the engine exists right now,
Nobody
and it
owns it.
will always exist this way. It like I think it's 4.4. I think it's the current version. 4.4 and every other version that's open source
Mm-hmm.
is free. And it is free to use in any capacity. You can literally download it, change the logo, change the name, call it Billy's Game Engine, and sell it for $1 million, and that is totally fine.
There you go. And
No one's going to
actually,
buy that, mind you, but
oh, you never know. You never know.
I hope no one buys that.
Sotheby's is gonna
But
release a new art expo, Billy's Game Engine.
yeah, so it means that there is no centralized ownership of the engine. It's
And
owned by the community and its contributors. And you see that line, it's got, the two creators that started it. But then
oh,
after
really?
that, it says on the copyright, it says Godot contributors, which is the community. So it's an open ownership of that software. There's more complicated things that come with that. This is a very simplified a look of that, but it means you can change the code, alter the engine, use it how you would like. You can do it commercially, you can do it privately, you can do it, um, for free. That's all
Mm-hmm.
fine. That doesn't mean you can't sell a game. You can sell your own game how you want.
With your name on
Um,
it, and you don't even have to say thank you to Godot, which would be rude, but you can do that if you want.
That's true. So it does allow that. Now there's a downside to that in the sense that we with consoles, okay? And I
Mm-hmm.
think I've tried to mention this a couple of times, and I don't know if this will come up, but obviously, Unity and Unreal are private, so they can hold code, they can hold parts of their engine behind a curtain, and they don't have to open it up for you. The Godot engine doesn't exist like that. So when it comes to doing ports for consoles, that information, because you would require information from Nintendo, SDK information from Nintendo, from Sony, from all
Mm-hmm.
these giant corporations, they can't have their code be open source,
Yep.
and so that's where the complication. That's why there's no like export to Switch
Mm-hmm.
coming with the engine. There are ways around that they're working on. Essentially, they do it privately, and give you access to that, but that's a downside, at least in the immediate sense of that with open source.
And
It
and
makes those things more difficult.
if I may,
Yeah.
one personal downside as a dev was because there's no centralized chain of command or authority. It's very hard to. It's gonna sound so stupid, but express frustrations or find somebody to address when you're looking for a problem.
Mhm.
You can't really exactly contact, hey, at contact@godot.com, where is this? You can contact people within the organization and stuff like this or in the forums, but there is no sort of central command, which, for the better and for the worst, has its own implications. Whether it means that certain things won't get made unless somebody makes it or you pay somebody to make it, or just sometimes the things that you're hoping will happen, just you'll have to wait on them.
I will
Yeah.
say that so the engine itself is sort of broken up. They have people that are sort of dedicated contributors, and then some of those people are assigned, like
Mm-hmm.
3D rendering or audio or multiplayer. And I those people are they're very busy, obviously, but it's also kind of cool that you can literally message those people and you'll find those people
That's true.
on the subreddit or you'll find them on Discord,
GitHub.
and
Yeah.
you can talk to sort of the orchestrator of 3D rendering and say, "Hey, I have a question." Now you can get help, obviously, from the sort of people that are underneath that. But yeah, you're right. There's no sort of central figurehead.
Mhm.
There was one question up there. I'm saying this is from Brain Fart
Yeah.
uh, about game revenue, and
Would you like me to read
there's
it?
no revenue share
Yeah.
associated.
I'm
There's
gonna
no
read it just for
royalty.
the because for the video they don't have the text, so I'm gonna just read it so that
Yes.
people know. To be honest, I don't know anything about Godot. I think he meant Godot. Other than it exists, not sure why I never looked into it. Anyway, for both Unreal and Unity, if your game generates revenue, at some point they expect a share. And Unity even fucked up even worse by expecting a share per download. Is that true
Yeah.
for Godot as well?
No.
Nope.
There's no royalty at all.
Hell yeah,
You don't
dude.
have to pay anything.
Hell yeah! So Kumome, 1 million downloads. Let's send me a little bit of money, please. It's gonna keep the show alive. Um, and yes, you have to apply to work with each company as well as purchase dev kits. Yeah, exactly. So the Switch dev
Yeah.
kit is 400. Exactly. Clays, I wanted to add something. Open source is that you can look at the code of a program. Also, that was a valid point that Clays was making. Open source also means that everyone can see behind the curtain, whereas, like you said,
You
Nintendo.
can literally go on their GitHub repo and you can look at every single line of the
Yep,
engine code.
exactly, and you can change it to say Billy instead of
You
Godot.
can pull it and then you can change the name.
Exactly, exactly. Dum dum dum. I wanted to ask you. This is an idea that we've been throwing around between me and the subreddit. No pressure to answer right now, but I just wanted to keep you posted. We are hoping, and everybody in the chat, this is for you as well. We are hoping to organize a game jam, and we want to play around with different ideas. One of them would be like a month-long game jam with 1 week we specialize on artists and we go to showcase their art. We give them a theme. Then next week we give them music. And then the last week will be the developers. And then we'll try to merge everything into different little games. And the winner would take a prize. Ideally, we were playing around with having a Godot themed game jam. And I
Mhm.
just want to offer my invitations to be one of the judges if you would be
I'll,
interested.
I'll, I'll let me grab that offer real quick.
There you
Um,
go. There you go.
no, I think that's a great idea. So
And
is that you would essentially give artists would create something for 1 week, and then you'd have some audio created the next week, and then the
yep,
developers could utilize those assets. Is that what the idea?
exactly. So one thing we've noticed is that some elements of the game development process get completely fucked over. Pardon my French, but I live in France, so I permit myself. Um,
Actually, a German word.
Yeah, there you go. Pardon my German. But yeah, for example, artists they get a little bit screwed over in terms of and musicians even more so because who's going to go click a link on Reddit to go listen to somebody's music? It might happen, it might not. So we want to make sure that a lot of people get the opportunity to showcase their work. We actually
Mhm.
hosted a really fun show. It was one of my favorite ones. We gave everyone trailers without music and they had to compose new soundtracks for all the trailers. And at the end, we
Yeah.
would do a compare and contrast. And I'm gonna be honest, there was some trailers that the musicians did that were far better. One of them was DJ Simulator, so you'd expect the music to be good. Well, nope. We had a game dev, a really talented man. He goes by Tasty Chutney in our Discord, and he works on AI. I think AI and LLMs. And he was like, you know what? I'm gonna make some groovy music. And it was so cool seeing an element of game development that gets kind of swept under the rug. Some people buy soundtracks, but nobody really knows what's going on in the music room. They're like the punished children. And I want to give each one of them a week of here's your time, and then the last week is all of them putting the things together and seeing what they can come up with.
I think it's a great idea. because you're isolating,
Mm-hmm.
and really you're making, if you had the same person doing that entire process, you're isolating each of those tasks.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you could even do that with just the development side in the future.
I
You
don't
know,
understand what that means, but I was nodding and I
well,
meant I don't
so
know
you're
why.
talking like audio, you're talking visual,
Yeah.
but even if you were just like, you'd have a week for make your main menu
Ah,
UI.
yeah, 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 yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, make um off the top of my head, but just like different aspects. If it's the same genre, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could be more specific, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's really it's practice. You're
Yeah,
practicing. Game jams are
exactly.
practice, and so
Exactly.
when you practice, and I'm a musician,
Yeah.
um, so when you practice music, you isolate different parts, right? You
Exactly.
don't you practice everything eventually, but you're isolating different parts. So yeah, I think that's a really smart idea.
I'll be honest, I stopped at the recorder, so I'm gonna have to take your word on it. But my mom signed me up for the flute, and within I
Uh
think
huh.
2 weeks, she got so sick and tired of hearing me going wee woo wee wee at home
Hot
that
cross bun. Yeah.
she took me out of class. She was like, "We're done. I need some peace of mind at home."
Earplugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so I'm gonna send you that invitation, and I would love for you to. We'll probably host it later in the summer, but a Godot themed game jam, and ideally, I've been wanting to dabble more and more into this. And actually, Therapy Dave, welcome. He's worked on this as well, but I really want to give back towards kids in STEM because I really think that they're the future of, especially as a Godot person, they're the future of our game development. They're the future of our games. They're the future of contributors of the scientific world. And one of the things I wanted to do was host a Kumome tournament for different charities for kids in STEM. But I would love to host different Godot themed events if you would be interested, especially because you do have quite a community as well. If we could like merge something and launch a live stream where it could be every so often, we could do like a different Godot game fundraiser for this association or this association. I really think we can do something cool because something that I've been trying to tell everyone. I don't know if you know, but the indie games subreddit has 250,000 members. A lot of them are game devs. The
Hmm.
Discord has close to 10,000 members and they're very active, they're very cool. And we're close to 10,000. These are huge numbers. 250,000 is over half of Iceland. That's a country. And going back to
Yeah.
the FOSS, the free open source software idea, I keep telling them we don't have the budgets of AAA marketing studios. We don't have the same access to the same channels, but what we do have is we have numbers, and we should not.
Mhm.
I hate using the word weaponize because it sounds very violent, and as an Arab,
Leverage.
leverage. That's the one. We should leverage these numbers to really help, like, do things for all of our communities because a rising tide raises all boats. And one idea I've been throwing around a lot as well is having a monthly competition where we give them a theme at the beginning of the month, and at the end of the month, we review the games that are coming out. They have to have certain criteria like set release date, set demo, playable demo, etc. And
Hmm.
it'll be predominantly funded by Patreon or whatever. It won't be a lot, but even if we have 100 people pitch in at $5, $10, it'll help fund a little bit of the visual assets, a little bit of the music. You can get a little bit of a U-Haul, UX UI overhaul. Just these little things that can push our whole community forward. And I don't know. I feel like Moses in the desert trying to warn everybody that we have to bring the rain. But I
I
really think
mean,
that
yeah,
our numbers are good.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree, and I think we're at a time, because you're talking about, this large community of people who are indie developers.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? So it means that you are making stuff independently. You're
Yeah.
not tied to, you're not working for a company. You're not somebody sitting in an office.
Yep.
Maybe in the daytime you are, but not at night. and you're it. Like that's it. There has never been an easier time for that person to create
Make a game,
something
yeah.
and put something out. Um, so like even in the 90s, like there was no way that you were going to make a game, and people did it, I'm sure, but it was not something as accessible that you could make a game, you put it online and have 10,000 100,000 people play it, or have Markiplier get 2 3 million people to watch him play it.
Yeah.
That was not a thing. That was not an avenue.
Yeah.
It was like 1,000 years ago. It was not. You couldn't drive across the country. You just couldn't do it. We have the ability now that people can make something. They can make something in a day, upload it, have people play it that day. They can have it done in an hour.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that gate has been opened. But I agree. I think the power, and you see it, the power of the numbers, the mass of people. And I to your point, I've been trying to, and I'm working on it, but thinking of a video series very similar to the one that I do every week, which is showcasing finished games.
Mhm.
That this would be a bi-weekly or monthly series of unfinished games, and these are games that people are not done making. Maybe it's just a prototype, it's a project, but feedback is, I think, a very valuable thing that people are missing. If you make an entire game in your basement and you're the only one who has seen that, you
Yeah.
have no idea what you have. You really don't. And so
Yeah.
if you could get 10 people to look at it and give you good feedback, imagine you could get 1,000 people to look at it and give you feedback. Like that's like legitimate statistical data, right?
Exactly.
Um, I think that playtesting process and having it be community based, and there are ways that people do it now, but to sort of leverage that, I think it would be an interesting idea. Yeah.
Mm, 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 mm. Alrighty. Well, I'm glad that I consider this. So you can tell me if I'm wrong. You can email me and say "fuck you" in German. Um, but but I'm really glad that we got to have this talk, and I really hope that moving forward we're going to be able to do more and more events like this, and with your participation. Because first of all, you're extremely knowledgeable about everything at hand, but on top of that, you are established in YouTube. You're established in the other side of the game development that we have very hard time getting through to.
It's marketing. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
the mark.
eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Clay's game says only in Godot. No, ask him if he would notice if I stick the Godot logo over my Unity logo.
I think it would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just cross it out and then,
Just a big, put the big icon, the big face right over it.
yeah.
But
That's
our
open source as far as I know too. So,
yeah, wait, Unity or the icon?
oh, the
Because I was gonna
logo.
say Unity, or a little
No,
far
not
from open
Unity is
source
not.
there.
No.
Um, well, thank you so much. By the way, you're also welcome to participate should you want Balatro, Dredge, or Scourgeborn, or Afterplace. But right after this, I'm hosting. Everybody, get ready. It's about to start. Tournament of Kumome. Whoever can beat me at my game, which is a fairly simple game, but complex. They get a free
It's a
copy
good way to
of
play test.
yeah,
Smart.
it's really fun. Actually, last week I talked so much shit, and I said whoever beats me, the first person to beat me gets Clair Obscure Expedition 33. First person to play whooped my
Mm.
ass, and
Good for them. That's a
yeah,
good game.
it is a very good game. Peach Cobbler's shout out for destroying me, and it was very embarrassing because I put like war drums. I was getting really hyped up. Boom, eradicated.
Oh, on
But
your home turf too.
on home turf, exactly.
Hmm.
But yeah, I really hope we get to have you again, and I'll keep you posted about if this interests you for real. I would
Yeah,
really
yeah.
love to have you part of this game jam thing because I we have so I like I can't emphasize this enough. So many every day I see on Discord, hey guys, I made a game, but how can I showcase it, etc. There's so many people with so much talent, and it feels like you ever watch Planet of the Apes?
Oh yeah.
Ape alone, weak. ape together, strong. And I keep saying it, and they mock me for it. But yeah, I really
It's
believe
very true.
it's true.
The
We yeah,
the amount of weight is I know it's exponential, but it's when you get a lot of numbers, it gets quite small. So
it's
things are
true.
quite easier
And even
to do.
here, for example, I'm gonna sorry, just tangentially, but for example, just the fact that we have numbers and we have regular streams, people are able to come and then Twitch picks it up algorithmically. We are on our sixth stream, and some of our streams are even averaging out to 50 viewers. Obviously, that depends on who's on. Like we had Thomas Mahler from Ori and the Blind Forest, but 50 concurrent viewers for
Mhm.
a third time live stream, and I'm like, guys, there would be even more if more of you guys showed up. There would be even more interaction if more of you guys showed up, which inherently will mean there will be more people for your game because we're going to talk about your games. We're going to do all these things, and so I'm actually also going to do trailer reviews after this in between the games where I watch some of the trailers of their games, and I will say some of the things they make are mind-blowingly good. So
Mhm.
I will see. Sorry, I went on a whole like prophetic ramble here.
No, it's
um,
inspire,
yeah.
keep inspiring.
Brain Fart says, I don't want to be accused of doing unwanted promo here, but this weekend we're having a closed beta test of our game. Okay, he'll send the things. Clear Obscure, talking about Clear Obscure. Kingdom Come. Oh, do you have any thoughts as to who will be Game of the Year?
Oh, it's too early, isn't it?
I don't know. We got some heavy hitters already. We,
Because aren't the awards at the end of the year?
they are, but we already got Clear Obscure Expedition
Oh,
33.
I can't like jump out. It's not even halfway through.
Dude, you're not a risk taker? You're not a gambler?
They're
You're
gonna
not.
drop no, because they're gonna drop Half-Life 3 at some point, and it's just gonna be
No,
like,
they're
oh, they
not. No,
really.
if GTA 6 had come out this year, I would have not taken the gamble. But now that Clear Obscure came out, I don't think anything's gonna top it because it was new.
I
Yeah.
yeah. I've as a new-ish parent, I do not get to play
Congratulations.
Mini, but I have heard
Yeah.
really, really good things about that from a lot of different people. So,
It's really impressive visually. It's a breath of fresh air. Also, I think
mm,
that's playing in its favor. People are tired of open world whatever, and I think yeah. So I think that's what really has it locked in. Same with Baldur's Gate 3. It was just a breath of fresh air. People like fresh air, and yeah. Alrighty, my friend. Well, thank you so much, Stay at Home Dev. If you have any encouraging words or anything you want to say to the viewers, um, Therapody says
yeah, I just
it's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
well, thanks for watching. This is fun. Um, it's nice to because I don't know what you're going to ask or what anyone else is going to ask, and I just talk, which is kind of fun. I think, yeah, for anybody who's making stuff and making games or anything that's within that, like games are art. So it's you look at all the different aspects that are involved with making a game. You've
Mm-hmm.
got music, you've got sound, you've got visual arts, you've got 3D arts, you've got narrative, you've got coding in itself is an art. So there's so many things combined with this, and as an artist, the most important thing you can do is create. So don't don't be afraid to make something. Just make stuff as much as you can.
I appreciate that. And actually, last week, no, not last week, the last interview was with Rob Yascombe, who was the writer of the game Rhyme. I don't know if you know Rhyme.
Yes,
Crisis.
RIEM,
Yeah,
RIEM,
yeah.
RIME.
Rime exactly.
Yeah,
And
I'm familiar.
I kind of dropped the ball on that one because I didn't warn anybody enough. But he gave some extremely valuable insight as to just stop being afraid. It was a little bit too much like therapy, to be honest, because I was explaining how I had my own worries about being in like as an artist, as somebody who wants to create stuff. It's like ultimately all you're doing every time you do is you're honing your craft. So at one point,
Yeah.
if you want to be able to really showcase what you truly believe in, the ideas that you have, you can't be afraid to do because you will have to do to get better. and once you're better, you will do well. Whew, that was a tough
Amen.
one. Amen. Exactly.
Amen.
All right. Well, thank you so much. If you want, I can also give you the footage of this. Should you want to share it around, or I'm really bad at
Yeah.
editing. I'm very terrible at editing, so I should probably learn from
I
you.
I feel that. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you do it
Alrighty.
more, you enjoy it more. So,
Yeah, exactly. Hone your craft. Except I don't like
yep.
this. It's a craft I don't like. Alrighty, my friend. Well, I'm gonna wish you a very lovely night for me because it's 11, and evening for you. And I gotta get the tournament started, and we're gonna do the trailer watch. So let's get going.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, have a very lovely night. Stay at home, Dev. Bye bye.
Appreciate it.
Bye.